We're learning the second Sikha on Parshas Nasso in Chelek Chav Gimel on page 53. The shir today is being learned Lila Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. Nachdem wie die Teure verendigt dem Sippur wie die Nisim haben gebracht sehr Karbonis lachanukas hamizbeach. In this week's parsha, when the Torah concludes relating all the details of the Karbonis that the Nisim brought for the inauguration of the Mizbeach in the beginning of the month of Nisan, all 12 Nisim brought Karbonis from Rosh Chodesh Nisan till Yud Beis Nisan. Zok the Pasuk says as follows: Zois Chanukas HaMizbeach b'yom Yimashach Choisai. This is the inauguration of the Mizbeach on the day that it was anointed. Me'eis Nisiya Yisrael Kares Kesef Shtei Mesrei, brought by all the Nisim, the leaders of the 12 tribes. They all brought together 12 silver bowls, which is the Sach HaKoil from the Kairos from Al Yud Beis Nisim Gomer. That's the total of the amount of bowls that they all brought, 12. So the question here is, the pasuk begins saying that we're speaking about B'yomi Mashach Choisai, on the day it was anointed, which is the first day. And then it says the total of all 12 that brought on all 12 days. Shteitev dem Medrash, so the Medrash says on this pasuk, there only was one bowl that was brought on the first day. The beginning of the pasuk says we're talking about that day. Why does it then say all 12? Ella, rather, from here we learn that Hela Aleya Makosov. The pasuk considers it ki ilu kula mekrivu b'yom rishain, as if all 12 brought their sacrifices on the first day. Und der Medrash bagnugen sich nicht damit, and the Medrash does not stop at that. Nor is mamshech. Then the Medrash says uki ilu kula mekrivu b'yom achron, and as if they all 12 brought their karbanis on the last day. On Mefarshim Zanim Mevayir, the commentaries explain where is the source of the Medrash when it says that they all brought on the last day. Werd opgelernt that as keilu ekriv b'yom achrein, the fact that it says that it's as if they all brought on the last day, werd opgelernt davon was noch im Messiah sein wegen aller Karbanos Hanisim sagt the Torah zois chanukas hamizbeach acharei himashach choisai. After the Torah concludes with describing the total of all the Karbanos brought by all 12 Nisim, it concludes with a pasuk saying that this is the inauguration of the Mizbeach after it was all anointed. And that refers to the last day, that it's as if all Nisim brought their Karbanis on the last day. Darfen verstehen, the question on this Medrash is, is muvan. Yes, it's understood. What's the advantage of the fact that we say that it's as if each one of them brought the carbon on the first day? So that's understood. Sai mitzadem gavra, both looking at it from the perspective of the individual that's bringing the carbon, because Davis is makriv l'rishayna, the one that brings first, weist as is chaviv yoser and is gadol from the andere. So it demonstrates the fact that he's more beloved and he's greater than the others, and that's why he's first. So therefore here we're saying that they were all really first. Torah considers it that they all brought on the first day. And also from the perspective of looking at the object here, which is the Mizbeach that's being inaugurated. As is an art to sagen, there's room to say, as the Karbanis von the spätige Tag noch Yom Rishain, that the sacrifices brought on the later days after the first day, sind nicht an Inyan von Chanukas HaMizbeach. It's not really the inauguration of the Mizbeach. Weil the Mizbeach is shoin is Chanach geworden. Durch die Karbanis von Makriv Yom Rishain. The Mizbeach is already inaugurated by the Karbanis brought on the first day. Bavarim is the Medrash, and therefore the Medrash tells us, as is Keilu v'yed Nasi is given the erste Makriv, that it's considered that each one of these Nisim is the first, on hat Mechanach given the Mizbeach. So he is the first, and whatever Mila there is in the first for the Gavra, being beloved and greater, is there by all of them, and the Mizbeach is actually being inaugurated by all of them. However, what needs clarification is, what is the Meile on Oiftu and the minion from Hela Aleim Kilo Kula Makriva B'yom Achron? What is the greatness about the fact that we consider it as if they all brought together on the last day? So we can explain this as follows, with two introductions here, 2 points. Number one, Hakrovis HaKarbanis Al Gabi HaMizbeach, bringing Karbanis on the Mizbeach, their klal the inyan von Aveda. This represents the general service of Hashem. Tutayvti the nenteruk from the makriv zum Eibischen. This accomplishes bringing close the one that brings the carbon to Hashem. That's what the word karbanis means. Karbanis maloshin kiruv, to come close. V'yaklat bekama mekaimis. As explained in many places, that this is the content of what the karbanis is about, representing the general aveda vayid, to come close to Hashem. Another point. It says, Yidua, it's known as the Ischalkus von Yidden of Yud Beis Shvatim. The fact that Yidden are divided into 12 tribes is verbunden mit the Chiluk in the Meifen v'yeder von Zeh is Meshamish as Kainai. It's because this is the 12 different ways of how one can come and serve Hashem. Ish ashakir b'chasai beirach haisam. Just like we find by Yaakov when he benched his children, he gives each one of them an individual blessing according to his level. So here as well, regarding serving Hashem, l'shamish durich kol masecha v'chulu. Each tribe serves Hashem in his own unique ways, in his lifestyle and with his approach. Was sie sind verschieden in them, kemufurish b'habrachas, and euch in aveda ruchnis. And they're all different, as very clear in the brachas, as that Yaakov compares each one of them to another animal or something different. And also, in the spiritual aveda of a Yid, how he approaches his connection to Hashem, there are 12 pathways. Avedas Hashem teilt sich in Yud Beis Rochen Kloliyim. Serving Hashem is divided into 12 general paths. Und jeder Nasi v'Shevet hat sein derech miyuchad in Avedas Hashem. Each leader with his Shevet has his own unique path in how he serves Hashem. So now we can understand here regarding the inauguration of the Mizbeach. Wie Shleimar, as das is the time for was Chanukkas am Mizbeach is given durch the Yud Beis Nesiim Dafke. This explains why, when it comes to inaugurating the Mizbeach, which represents serving Hashem, the general inyan of Avedas Hashem, it's done by the 12 Nesiim. Unit durch Moshe v'Aaron. And not like when it came to bringing the Shechinah down into the Mishkan, where there it was just Moshe and Aaron. So why is this? The inauguration of the Mizbeach by each Nasi is not a repetition of what the other Nasi did. Each Nasi is inaugurating the Mizbeach, serving Hashem here with his karbanis in his own unique way. Durchbringen karbanis, was der Teuchen is masim, zu sein derech b'avedas Hashem, bringing karbanis with the content corresponding and representing his unique way in serving Hashem. Ukemavur b'medrash, this is explained at length in the Medrash, as af al pi, as sie haben alle gebracht dieselbe karbanis. That even though all Nesiim brought identical amounts of sacrifices, hat aber jeder Nasi gehat dabei andere kavanas. But nevertheless, what was represented in the karbanas brought for each one of the Nesiim, it was a different idea, connected, a completely different symbolism. The Hesem zu sein Deya und sein Shevet, kir b'chasoi bracha shaloi, corresponding to his approach, his opinion, his understanding, which is his Shevet, as you see in the bracha of Yaakov. Kol echad ve'echad hikrivay lefi daitai. In the words of the Medrash, each one of the Nesiim brought karbanis according to his understanding. Und wie the Medrash is mefaret, the karbanis shaynis von alle pratei karbanis. And the Medrash goes through this in detail. Each one of the 12 shvatim explaining the completely different ideas that there were behind each shevet, bringing their karbanis. By yed nasi andish, and each one was different. So now Pizez, move on. So with this we understand, as the Chanukkas am Mizbeach is given jeden Tag von die 12 Tag. If this is the case, then the inauguration of the Mizbeach was actually each day of the 12 days. You can't say that the first day it was inaugurated, and then following that, it's already the second time, it's a repetition. No, each day there's a new inauguration. Jeden Tag in a neue Meifen. Every day it's completely new. Welche is nicht gewinnt klal in die andere 11 Tag. And following after the first day, in the other 11 days, or each day, in contrast to the other days, is unique in what is being inaugurated in the connection to Hashem, in the Aveda on that day. The Chinuch HaMizbeach is nit verendigt geworden. So therefore, until you don't have all 12 bringing their karbanis, inaugurating the Mizbeach with their idea behind the karbanis, it's incomplete. Erst wenn jeder Nasi und alle Nesiim haben gebracht alle their karbanis. It's only when all Nesiim brought their karbanis, lefi daitai, with their understanding, was haben bechanach gewend, dem Mizbeach euch mit on oif, dem oifen avede. So then they inaugurated the Mizbeach, including also and through their own personal way that they serve Hashem, is given Chanukkas HaMizbeach. That's when you have the inauguration of the Mizbeach. L'dugme, so as an example, erst am 12. Tag is der Mizbeach neschanach geworden auf Makriv sein Iden, welche sind von Shevet Naftali. It was only on the 12th day, which Naphtali was the last on the 12th day, it's only then that the Mizbeach is for the first time being inaugurated in this kind of Aveda, serving Hashem in Naphtali's approach. Their life and their serving Hashem is like it said in the brachas of Yaakov, compared to an ayala, shlucha, going with a hastiness or with an alacrity in serving Hashem. That's what Naphtali represents. And the same with each one of the Shvatim. Every Shavit that brought their karbanis is actually inaugurating the Mizbeach, bringing the karbanis for the first time with this approach on the Mizbeach. So based on this, we will understand what's the Medrash sagt, why the Medrash adds that that it's considered as if they all brought the karbanis on the first day, but then he adds as well that it's as if they all brought the karbanis on the last day. What's the mila of the fact that they brought it all on the last day? As jeden Tag von the Yud Beis Yom hat sich aufgetan a basunde Prat in Chinuch HaMizbeach. So although, as just explained, each one of the 12 days, each one of the 12 tribes accomplished something completely different than the other tribes in the karbanis that they brought in the Mizbeach. Durch the karbanis von dem Nasi shehikre b'yom zeh. Through the Nasi that brought his karbanis on this day. Is aber faran a meilim yechedes in dem Yom Rishon und dem Yom Achrein. But nevertheless, there still is a special quality that there is in the first day and in the last day. In dem Yom Rishon is given the Aschale Upsiche von Chinuch HaMizbeach. On the first day, this was the opening. The very fact that it's the opening of inaugurating the Mizbeach, even though it's only the opening of one unique approach, but it is the opening of inaugurating the Mizbeach. V'oid v'ikir, and another important point here why the first day is greater. Damos is given the inyan klali. Then what was accomplished is something very general. Neisif of den Prat von Shevet Yehuda, in addition to the detail, the individual approach of Shevet Yehuda, which was the one that brought on the first day, as is geworden the Metzias von HaMizbeach Mechunach. This is the first time that this new thing comes to be, that there is a Mizbeach that's already inaugurated. So that's something that's unique on the first day. On dem Yom Achrein is da the Meiler. And we could also understand that on the last day, there's a big advantage to what was accomplished on this day. As in hat sich aufgetan, that on that, it's only finally on the last day that was accomplished, as the Mizbeach is geworden mechunech, that the Mizbeach is fully inaugurated, euch for den letzten Shevet, including also for the very last tribe, Shevet Naphtali, v'ayidei mechunech for Klal Yisrael al Zaklal and Bepoil. That now, finally, after all the Shvatim bring their karbanis through the Nasi, each on their individual day, at the end, on the last day, is when the Mizbeach is finally fully inaugurated in actuality, not only in potential on the first day, but in actuality on the last day. Und das meint der Medrash, so this is the meaning of the words of the Medrash, Hela le'em akosov, the pasuk considers it, Ki'ilu kulam ekrivu b'yom rishon, or Ki'ilu kulam ekrivu b'yom achrein. That it's considered as if they all brought the karbanis on the first day and they all brought it on the last day. What's the maila of the first and the last day? Jeder Nasi hat aufgetan, what each one of these Nasiim accomplished with their karbanis is nit nur dem Prat von Chanukas HaMizbeach, was is verbunden mit seine karbanis. He's not only accomplishing, as explained before, that each Nasi is an individual with his own idea and with his own approach. But here, though, the Medrash tells us what each one of these Nasiim accomplished is not only their day and their individual approach. It's as if each one of them has also the advantage of the general inauguration of the Mizbeach, and also this itself, that on the first day you have in potential everything else that follows in the rest of the day, since it's as if they all brought on the first day already. So that Maila, each one of the Shvatim has the koyach of all the details on Klolos Chinuch HaMizbeach B'Poil. And the fact that the Mizbeach is finally fully inaugurated with all the details is a Maila that each individual Shevet, it's considered as if he has this Maila, he has accomplished this. Both the general Maila of the first day and the general Maila of the last day. Not only inaugurating the Mizbeach as an individual. This is the explanation of the Medrash that all Nesiim were makriv b'yom rishon and b'yom achron. What is the advantage of that? But now here, the Rebbe will begin to explain on a deeper level to really understand what does this actually mean? Why is this true? Why is this so that we consider all the Nesiim as if they brought on the first and on the last day? Es ist verstandig, it's understood. As wie bald, Teires Emes, sagt ki ilu kulam ekrive b'yom rishon achre. That since this is something that the Torah, which is the Torah of truth, is telling us that it's considered as if they all brought on the first and the last day, is this the far, was yada nasi is be'emes a chelek from kulam. The reason is because this is actually truthfully so, that every single nasi has a portion in all the karbanos that are brought, unsai b'mailas yom rishon, and he also has the advantage of the first day, unsai b'mailas from yom achrin, hanal, and he also has the advantage that there is in being the one that brings on the last day. So we need to explain what this means. What's the maila of the fact that the nasi has all of this? But first, the Rebbe brings here what it says in the Farshim about this, that this has an actual real relevance regarding the karbanos that they brought. Der mit, zene mefarshim mevayeh, was the meder zog dort besmichas fardem. With this, the commentaries explain what it says earlier on there in the Medrash, that v'lo hikriv echad mehem yeiser al chaverei, that none of the Nesiim brought a carbon that was more or different than his colleague. She'ilu hikriv echad mehem yeiser al chaverei, Loi hoya carbon echad mem deichas Shabbos. If one of them would have brought a carbon that's unique and different than the other, then the carbon of none of them, which in our case, as the Rebbe here brings in the parentheses, is the carbon of Shevet Ephraim, the carbon from Shevet Ephraim versus Oizgefallen B'yom Shabbos, it fell out on Shabbos, it wouldn't push off Shabbos if each carbon was unique. So the fact that, on one hand, as explained before, all Nesiim are unique and individual, but at the same time, we say that each Nasi has the Maila of all of them. And each Nasi is like he brought on the first and on the last day, is expressed by this halacha that Shevet Ephraim, their carbon, was able to override Shabbos. And the Rebbe explains that Tam, what is the basis for the fact that the karbanis of the Nesiim to inaugurate the Mizbeach did override Shabbos, is Vailayesas Hela Aleim Akasav Kilo Kulam Akrivi B'yom Rishon Chul B'yom Achrein, since the pasuk considers it as if they all brought on the first and the last day, Diriber Hayanechshav LeKarbon Tzibur Shadecha Shabbos. So therefore, the karbanis they brought is considered to be a carbon of the masses, of the public, not an individual carbon. And a carbon tzibur is Deicha Shabbos. A carbon of an individual is not. But because all of them, it's considered as if they brought on the first and the last day, they're all the same and connected to one another, a carbon tzibur overrides Shabbos. And where's the proof for the fact that their carbon is like a carbon tzibur? Is the fond carbon echad mem yesal chaverei. It's from the fact that the carbon of none of them was different or more than the other. Since every day each one of the Nesiim brought the same set of karbanis. So this is a proof as jeder von sie is given nit nur a carbon miyuchad von dem Nasi, that each one of them is bringing not only a carbon that's individual to him, because it was the same as everyone else, nor oich karbanis hatzibur. This is a carbon for the tzibur, or b'meila dizelbe by alle shvatim, and therefore the karbanis that they're bringing is the same for all shvatim. So we see over here in both in the fact that they're all bringing the same karbanis, and in the fact that therefore it pushes off Shabbos, that the point that the Medrash says that Maila Aleim Akasuv, as if they brought on the first and the last day, because it actually is all one and the same carbon tzibur for all of them. But now the question though is, going back to the point explained earlier, that each one of these Nesiim are actually individual and unique. And therefore, the question here is, wie stimmt der Inyan? How does the point here that we're saying go along with the point that we said earlier, as es ki'ilu v'ale, that Inyan, this point here, as es ki'ilu v'ale Nesiim haben gebracht the karbanis b'chol yom v'yom als karbanis tzibur, that all Nesiim are bringing the same carbon, that it's a carbon tzibur in that sense. Mit dem, was steht in Medrash Kanal, as kol echad ve'echad hikrivoy lefi daitay. With what the Medrash tells us, on the other hand, that each one of the Nesiim brings the carbon with his approach, with his idea that he understands on his day. On the other hand, if the karbanis that the Nesiim bring is a carbon that's not individual, it's a carbon of the people, of the tzibur, haben sie alle gekonnt makriv sein in ein und in demselben Tag. They should be bringing their karbanis all on one and the same day. Why divide them separately on different days? And especially, this was actually the plan of all the Nesiim to bring all their karbanas on the same day. The estate, as the pasuk describes, vayakrivu anesiim es chanukas hamizbeach vayom yimashach haisai. Vayakrivu anesiim es karbanim lefnei hamizbeach. The Nesiim came forward and they brought all of their karbanas. On that day that the Mizbeach was inaugurated, they brought all their animals to be brought as the karbanis. But then the Eibishter said that it should not be brought all on the same day. But yet Hashem tells them, as dafke nasi echad l'yayim, that only one nasi should bring his carbon on his own day. Yakrivu es karbanim. That's how the karbanis are brought. But why is this so? If we're saying that it's a carbon sibur, why divide it in separate days? Mos ben Zagin. So based on what we see here in the Medrash, we must say, as does and given beide in yonim ugedarim, that in the karbanis that the Nesiim brought, there are both points, and it really fits into both categories here. On one hand, the karbanis on Nesiims and the karbanis hatzibur. These are karbanis that are equal every day, and it's all together, and therefore, in that sense, it's a carbon of the tzibur, kulam, a carbon of all. But at the same time, though, is dafke mishaloi hevi. It also belongs into the category of being an individual carbon that each nasi brings his own. Gefindnet as es darf sein meisra yafe yafe. Every nasi, he's the one that paid and sponsored his individual carbon, and we don't find that he had to give it over to make it public funds and to remove himself personally from the funds that he's giving away. V'adarabe. Ledai toy hikriv. On the contrary, he brought the carbon with his understanding, with his approach. And the pasuk is madgish, and the pasuk highlights this. Zeh carbon nachshein ben aminadav. By each one of the 12, it says, this is the carbon of this nasi nachshein ben aminadav. The akrave bepoil from jeden nasi is abgeteilt loit daitoi davke ubemela oich and abazunde tag ukidle kaman. Every nasi is bringing his carbon specifically with his own approach and on a separate day, as will be explained over here. So we have both of these definitions, both of these categories regarding the karbanis. On one hand, we see it's a carbon sibur, yet at the same time, it's the carbon of the yachid, of the individual. Now, before we explain this, another point there, we see here that the Nesiim came and donated, that has to be explained. Before they brought the karbanis to inaugurate the Mizbeach, but actually along with the karbanis that they brought, haben sie früher gebracht 6 eglois tzav, 6 plated wagons, u'shnei asa bakar, and 12 oxes, 12 cattle. Und der Eibishter hat angesagt Menschen, als die agalois u'bakar soll man geben, die Bnei Levi losses ha-mishkan. And Hashem commands Moshe Rabbeinu that what are the wagons to be used for? They'll be given to the Shevet Levi, and they'll be carrying the krushim and other things of the Mishkan on them. That's what they donated at the same time when they donated their karbanis. It's nit verstandig. So here, this donation of the Nesiim, it's very difficult to understand. Atin Dave hat l'chayre kein shayches nit mit der Avede Mishkan Chanukas HaMizbeach. This is a donation of wagons, of cattle, of 12 oxen that is not related to the actual service of the karbanis that's being done on the Mizbeach, inaugurating the Mizbeach. And Favasa and the Nesiim gebracht in Nedava in dem selben Zman. So why are they bringing the Nedava of these wagons and the oxen at the same time when they're bringing the animals for the carbon on the Mizbeach? Euch is nicht verstandig. Another detail that's not understood here. Wie kommt es? How could it be, was the Nesiim, that here these leaders of the 12 tribes, was jeder von sie hat gegeben beöfen und hat goshas nidvas alev, that each one came and brought in a very generous manner, full generosity of their heart. Hat gebracht nit adov shalom v'atzmai. But here though, regarding this donation of the wagons and the cattle, they're not bringing something which is complete, something that they can say that this is my complete giving. Nor, Aleph, as we see here, number 1, Agola achas al shnei Nesiim, und nit jeder nasi an Agola la'atzmai. Each wagon, there were only 6 wagons for 12 Nesiim. So each wagon is being brought by 2 of the Nesiim. So each one is only giving half a wagon. Beis, Even regarding the oxen that they donated, so there were 12 oxen, so for the 12 Nesiim, so they did bring each one an ox for themselves. But nevertheless, this is a donation in such a manner as the shayr is a halbe zach and muss ankommen zu nach a shayr. It's still a half a donation because there were 2 oxen that were pulling each wagon. So therefore, it's one ox can't do the job at all. Zwei bakar of yeder agala. So why are the Nesiim bringing such a kind of donation where each one is just giving half of something? Okay, so to explain this, the Rebbe will give us a lengthy introduction to understand the existence of Yidden, the special qualities that there are within Yidden, and the unity that there is within Yidden that's going to be expressed over here in the Karbanis that the Nesiim bring. So we can say an explanation for all of this, looking at it from a deeper perspective and seeing the hint of what there is in the Karbanis that the Nesiim brought. Every Yid possesses 2 general qualities. Aleph, the Mailis and Velacher is gleich mit alle Yidden. The quality of who a Yid is, which is equal by all Yidden. The fact that we all come from the same place, the Sheirish of the Neshama of all Yidden comes from one father, from one source, that unites us all being the same in that sense. And the quality goes even a step further. In the source there, where the neshamas stem from, all Yidden are actually one entity. This is one quality of all Yidden, where all Yidden are actually one. Then there's the individual qualities that every single Yid has, each on their level. The leaders, the great ones amongst Yidden, as the pasuk says in Parshas Nitzavim, all the way down to the simple Jew, the water carrier. And the Alter Rebbe here, quoting from the Alter Rebbe on Lekutei Torah, says, every single Yid has a certain quality that he's unique in, that he contributes, that nobody else possesses. So in this sense, everybody's unique. Seemingly, there's no unity that's expressed in this. But was euch der Sug Meiles führt zur Achtes zwischen alle Yidden. But even here, talking about the individual quality of every Yid, this also leads to unity amongst all Yidden. Because when one knows and senses that we are all dependent on one another, that each one of us is incomplete without another Jew, without his friend, zu dem, as man soll sich misachet sein mit der zweiten Yid. So this leads to the fact that we realize that we must unite ourselves with another Yid, mit noch Yidden, mit der zweiten Yidden, mit noch Yidden, with another Jew. Was durch dem is eine Maschel mit zweiten. And that's how one can complete the other. Okay, and as is known, as alle Yidden stellen zusammen, koima achas shlema. All Yidden make up one big body, one big unit, uniting all the milas that Yidden have. Sorry. Und in jeden von die zwei Sugim ist voran a Meile legabe dem zweiten. So we have here 2 ideas of unity. The unity of the Shaidish of the Neshamas of Yidden, the fact that in their source, all Yidden are all one there. And then there's a unity by the fact that all Yidden have their own unique qualities, but they complement one each other. And each Yid understands and senses that I'm incomplete without another Yid. Und in jeden von die zwei Sugim ist voran a Meile legabe dem zweiten. In each one of these types of unities, there is a certain advantage that the other does not have. Mitzad dem ersten Sug is the Achtus aggressere. The unity on the first level, talking about the fact that all Yidden in their source are one, there's a much greater level of unity here. Weil das kommt von dem, was alle Yidden seinen Melchatchile ein Sach. The unity over here stems from the fact that there, all Yidden are one. In the source, there is no separation or distinctions in levels of one from the other. But in the second type of unity, where one complements the other with the individual qualities he has, is the Achtos Ateitza von der Isbeinus as mit darf ankommen zum Zweiten. So the unity here is only an outcome of the fact that one realizes that as much as I am an individual, but I still can benefit and need the qualities of the other. So, but if that's the case, it comes out, bleibt jeder azach für sich. On this level of unity, each individual is really an individual for himself, abgeteilt von zweiten, separate of the other individual. So that's the big advantage that there is in the first level of unity. This is a true unity where everyone is actually one in the source. On the other hand, though, is aber fanan am meile in zweiten Neufen Achtos. There's also an advantage in the second approach of unity that one complements the other. Weil ihr Pu'ulas ha is Achtos is euch in the inyanim pratiyim von Ayidin. Because over here, the effect of this unity is even there on the level where you are an individual. There's a realization there as well that my individuality is incomplete without another Yid. And welcher is abgeteilt von der zweiten, even there in that place where you're separate seemingly from another, as a fille in den prat shaloi, that even over here in his individuality, where fehlt sein Meile, where one senses that I'm unique, the härter euch dort, wo is nicht kein Shalom, wie is nicht kein Shalom, on dem zweiten Yiden. That I'm incomplete here on this level without another Yid that completes me. So there's a big advantage here in this level of Achdus that it's applied and it comes down even into the individuality of the Yid. Now the Tachlis HaKavana is, what's the ultimate purpose and what's the ultimate unity of all Yidden is as Zayin, the Vereinigung von beide Meiles, to actually unify and have the advantage of both of these levels of unity. As euch, wie man es maker, Zayin Meile Protis. Even there on that level where one is focusing on his own individual Meile, his own quality that he has. Soll gleichzeitig fühlen. But yet at the same time, you should sense nicht nur, as darf ankommen zur zweiten Yidden, not only the fact that he can use the help or he can get completion by another Yid. Weil hat nicht die Meile sheyesh b'chaveiroi, because of that individual quality that he does not possess that his friend has. No, rather, he at the same time when he's focusing on his own personal quality, he should sense as well as that is ein Zach mit der zweiten Yidden, that he's actually completely one with another Yid b'achdas gemura, with the real and absolute unity that there is in the source. That level and intensity of unity in the source should be sensed and be applied even there when one is dealing with and feeling the individual quality that he has. So the question, of course, is, how is this possible? What is the basis for this kind of level of unity, that the level of unity in the source, where everyone is one, should be expressed and felt with that same Achdus Gemura, even when it comes out into details and in the individuality of every Yid. So to explain this, the Rebbe first brings what the Alter Rebbe says in Likutei Torah, as quoted before, where the Alter Rebbe there mentions these two different aspects of unity amongst Yidden. So the explanation here is as follows. B'shas the Alter Rebbe is mevayeh. Wie bei Yidden is this ba'ofen as kulam tzrichim zeh lezeh. When the Alter Rebbe speaks about the second aspect of unity, where each one has his individual quality, but yet one completes the other, we all need one another. No one could say that he's complete alone without another Yid. So following this, the Alter Rebbe says the following expression. As durch dem wird aufgetan an Achtus, mi bli yimtza ha'adam reish v'seif. This brings about a level of unity where there's no beginning and there's no end. It's all literally one. Whereas dort mevayer, das ist verbunden mit Bchinas Igulim. This level of unity is what's referred to in Kabbalah, Igulim, where you have circles. A circle was an igul, ein le Bchinas reish v'seif, has no beginning and no end. So here, the unity, where one Yid feels that he's incomplete without his friend, is to the degree where there's no beginning and there is no end. That's the expression that the Alter Rebbe says. So seemingly this is not understood. Das, was jeder Yid is mashlim dem zweiten, this level of unity, where everyone is an individual, and he senses that the other Yid is completing me. Biz, as a filler, der was is in the darge von Raglayim, hot a meile, was is nit on reish. Even a Yid that's on the lowest level, being compared to the feet of the body. So he has a certain quality that the head does not possess, which is, shetzarech lahalach behem, v'gam hema midya gufa reish. You could only walk with your feet, and you could only stand up tall and firm through the feet that hold up your body. But it's not masbir as chaveiroi is a reish tzem. But that only explains that each one provides something that the other does not have, and therefore you're incomplete without the other. That's the idea of unity here. Via Zaya wird mit Zadem an Achtus and an Eufen Nibli Yimtza Adam Reish V'Seif. However, in this idea of Achtus, how do you come to a level of unity where there's no beginning, there's no end, none of the qualities matter, it's all the same, it's just one big circle? If we're talking about the level of unity where each one does have his individual qualities, so then the unity seemingly consists of the fact that each one contributes his unique quality. So in this sense, each one is a head in his own sense. He provides something that no one else could provide. But you can't say that there's no beginning and there's no end. On the contrary, each one has his individual quality. So we could see here in the language of the Alter Rebbe that he's telling us that even when we're dealing with the level of unity based on the individual qualities of every Yid and how they contribute and they complement one another, you could veer on that level also come to an absolute unity where there's no beginning and no end. What's the explanation for this? So we can say here in the words of the Alter Rebbe, as the mit is the Alter Rebbe merames, so a hecheren inyan. The Alter Rebbe here, by using this language of mibli ashiyim tzaraysh v'seif, regarding this level of unity where he speaks about the individual yid and the qualities that one complements the other, he's hinting to actually a higher level of unity. As mentioned before, the ultimate level of unity that binds together the advantage of both of these levels of unity, that it should be an absolute unity, but at the same time, it should be sensed within the individuality of the person. So how do we explain this? What does this mean? So first, the Rebbe explains how this is regarding the nefesh, the life of a person. The nefesh of a person is just a simple essence of life without any details to it. But then there's the koiches nefesh. There's the senses, the faculties, which have all kinds of details to it. So here, regarding this, what we have to understand is as follows. The mailus, the koiches hapratim von a Yidden, whatever individual qualities or individual faculties any Yid has, it's not really something which is separate and detached of the essence of the soul. Nor sie sind verbunden und kommen von Etzem Neshama. They're still bound with, and they actually stem from, the very essence of the soul. For sie is neise in sich alle pratim. This real source of the individual qualities that any person has, all the kinds of qualities that an individual has, whether chesed or gvured, his kindness, or the opposite, or the sense of seeing, the sense of hearing, all these various different kaiches, where do they stem from? Their existence doesn't begin with the individual value of what these kaiches have for what they are when they function separately. The source of where they really begin is the life, the essence of life of what the nefesh is, which possesses, as being the essence of life, possesses in it all of it. It possesses the expression of life in all these different ways. That's really the source of all of these individual qualities. This is also the reason why, even after the individual qualities come out and are expressed individually in each limb or organ of the body, individually, separately from another, but nevertheless we see that there's an inclusion and they complete one another. To take, for example, chesed and gvura, which are opposites. One is kindness, one is being judgmental and critical, but nevertheless they complement one another. And there's chesed shebegvura, there's gvura shebechesed. One without the other is incomplete. Why is that? If each one, its value would consist just of this, that this is chesed. Chesed is the only value and the only thing that's good and powerful, so then chesed should not know of and not tolerate and not coexist or even complement gvura. Why is it that we see there an inclusion of one another even after they come out of their source in the nefesh itself? Yet the kayach prati is kailol ala kayches. We see that each individual quality also has in it and is complemented by all the other kayches that the person has. The reason is, vibalt as the sheirish umakir from yedin kayach. What's the real source of each individual quality? Is the etzam anefesh versus noise ala kayches? It's really just one essence of life. And that essence of life is complete and absolute fullness, which includes all these qualities in it as part of and as an expression of the essence of life. The Rebbe and in yedin koyach mitzadam etzem shaboy. So even when there is an individual quality as it stands for itself, once it's functioning on its own, seemingly in its own place, in its own limb, in the body, and so on, but nevertheless, because of the true essence of what it is and where it stems from, Kolol ala andere koiches. So in it, you'll see included other qualities as well, how they complete it and how they complement it. That's the real source of this idea that we see, that even when it comes to the individual qualities that there are, which are seemingly separate, but nevertheless, the fact is they complement one another. Why is that so? What's the real concept behind this of why the individuality requires also to be completed by another individual? Because the real source of the individuality itself stems from the essence of the soul, where over there all the individual koiches are included as one. So Val Derech Zeh is this Benigeya, the Kaimachas Shleima from Klal Yisrael. The same can be applied over here regarding the fact that all Yidden are considered to be one big unit, one big body, because of the fact that they complement each other with their qualities. Das was die alle Meiles Protis von alle Yidden stellen zusammen Kaimachas Shleima. The fact that all the individuals, that in each one contributes his quality that he has, together make up the one big body of Klal Yisrael, is this the far was alle Yidden sind beetzem ein Sach mit tzadshenish nafsham. Where that comes from is because really all the individuals stem from one source in one place, where there the individual qualities are really expressed in just one point, the essence of the soul, the life of the soul itself. Because really, these Miles Pratius, they are not what they are here as a value for themselves as it seems when they're outside of their source. Their real value is the value of life, of the essence of life, of the source of the soul itself as it is in its source. Is euch die Miles Pratis von a Meile Pratis von a Yidden, and therefore, so even the individual quality that a Yid has that nobody else has, in sich kailol alle andere Meiles von alle Yidden. It includes in it, and it becomes complete only when it also has the other Meiles of other Yidden that complete it. Even after it comes out of its source, and every Yid has his individual Meile, but nevertheless, he'll never be complete unless he's going to be complemented by the other Meiles, because that's really the essence of this Meile Pratis itself. The Meile Pratis is not what's its value. Its real value is the fact that it's an expression of the essence of the source of the life of where the Yid comes from. Oh, mitzadem. So this is now the explanation that because of this, vertanachtos, this brings an absolute unity. Oich mitzad, the Meiles Pratis von Yidden, even there, when you're looking at the individual quality of any Yid, in anoifen from bli yimtza ha'adam reish v'seif. As the Alter Rebbe says, it's an absolute unity to the degree where you can't distinguish. There's no beginning, there's no end. It's like one large circle. Even though we're focusing here on the individual qualities of a Yid. Because when you realize what's the source of the individual level or quality that every Yid possesses, where does that really stem from? Why is it that one has to complement the other? The real reason for it is because everybody stems from the same essence, where there all individual qualities are one. So therefore here it's all one. There's no beginning and no end. By Yidden Zenefaran ala Meiles. The truth is that every Yid really possesses all of the qualities that stem from the source. All Yidden come from the same source, and there in the source, all the Meiles, all the qualities are there as part of the life of the essence of the source. So every Yid coming from there really possesses all of these qualities. The only difference between one Yid and another Yid regarding their individuality and what qualities we see in them is only as far as what is expressed, what is something that he consciously can see and live with, and what is there in a concealed level. By ein Yidden steht der Inyan reish begilui. By one, it's his head. The level of what the head represents is more highlighted and expressed. On alle andere Meiles and in kol and dem behelen. And it's there in that one Meile that everything else is included because of the fact that it all really stems from the source where it has it all there, b'shleimus. By zweiten steht der zweite Meile begillet. By another Yid, it's another quality which is highlighted and expressed. On alle iberike Meiles, then behiskalos behelem in here. And all the other qualities that are really all there because of the way they stem from their source are concealed there. The explanation here, to give an example for this from mitzvahs, is al derech hamavur, similar to what's explained in other places in the minyan von oisik b'mitzvah potem in a mitzvah. The halacha that when one is occupied with fulfilling one mitzvah, he's exempt of fulfilling another mitzvah. Why is this so? Seemingly each mitzvah has its individual purpose. As das ist der Fall, was alle mitzvahs sind in kolol mikola mitzvahs. The reason is because every mitzvah, even though it's one individual mitzvah with one individual content and accomplishment, but really it includes in it all mitzvahs. Und der Rebbe, and therefore, afal piyas begolui, is the Mekayim blois di mitzvah pratis. So even though right now what he's actually expressing with this mitzvah is a content of what this mitzvah is about, but nevertheless, really all mitzvahs stem from the source of Hashem's will that is unlimited and really includes all milas there in the source. Is es ki'ilu wollt euch mekayim gewähren alle andere mitzvahs, welche seine kolol in der mitzvah behellen. So even when he's occupied in expressing what this mitzvah is to express, but nevertheless, in this mitzvah, you do have on a concealed level the source of what all mitzvahs are included in this mitzvah. So therefore, when you're doing one mitzvah, you're really including, and therefore you're exempt of doing any other mitzvahs. So now we come back to understanding how this all applies to the karbanis of the Nesiim, where on one hand we see that the Nesiim are bringing all karbanis that are equal and the same. It's a carbon sibur, and they all are like they brought on the first and the last day equally, but at the same time, each Nasi brings the carbon with his approach, lefidaitai, individual idea that relates to him individually. Und das ist der Bior in der Meifen, Veseder, von Nidus and Nesiim Lachanukas HaMizbeach. We can now understand on a much deeper level what is the approach and the order of how the Nesiim donated their kabbanis to inaugurate the Mizbeach. Kidei, the Chanukas HaMizbeach, soll sein betachlis hashleimus. In order that the inauguration of the Mizbeach shall be with the highest level of perfection, hat gedacht sein, the Ichud from Beidik Tzavis. It was necessary to bring together two opposite extremes here. On one hand, the Aveda von jeden Nasi Shevet mit Zayin Inyan Prati. It's every individual Shevet that's bringing the carbon with his own personal Aveda. Kol Echad ve'echad hekrivoi lefi daitoi. Every Nasi is bringing the carbon with his own understanding, with his own approach. Und der Fahr is given abgeteilt euch ins Zman. And therefore, as Hashem says, that they shouldn't bring it all on the same day. It should be brought in a different time. Yeda kraven abazunder tag. It's individual, it's unique. Everybody is separate on a separate day. On the other hand, and at the same time, there, in this level of who each Nasi is as an individual, what needs to be sensed over here is, what's the real source of my individuality? The euch mitzad, der avede pratis von dem Nasi v'shevet, that even there on that level, where he's serving Hashem, as an individual with his own approach, is ein zach mit alle iberike Nesiim Shvatim. He's absolutely one with all other Nesiim Shvatim that serve Hashem on their level. The fact that they complement each other is to such a degree that you realize what's the source of what's happening here. That they complement each other is because in the source, all of these individual qualities stem from one place where there, each individual quality is one. It's just the essence of life which is in the source. And that's now the deeper understanding of what the Medrash says, Ki'ilu kulam ekrivu b'yayim rishayin, that it's considered as if they all brought on the first day, and b'yayim achrein, and as if they all brought on the last day, as the Rebbe mentioned. This is not just a stama ki'ilu that Hashem says, I'll consider it as if, but this is actually so. Teiras Emes is saying that this is the truth of what the Nesiim accomplished. Or Kanal Siv Dalet, as was explained before, as das is the Fad, was the Karbonis, von jeden Tag, seine Gewen, Karbonis Hatzibur. And this is, as we see this, that all their karbanos were the same, and therefore it's considered to be a carbon that's not individual, but it's a carbon of the tzibur. Weil die karbanos von jeden Tag haben in sich enthalten euch die avodas hakraves hatzibur von kulam. Because in that individual quality of the approach of every Nasi that he brought on his day, even though Begiloi, it expresses who he is and what his approach to the Eibishter is, but nevertheless, because this individual quality, you reveal in it its source, that it stems from the source where it's all included as one, so it included in it also all the Nesiim, which is the Tzibor, in that one day. Kulam, it's all there included in that one day. On the high time of Gufa, and it's for this reason itself, was haben alle Nesiim makriv gewähnt dieselbe karbonis, that they all brought the very same karbonis. Es ist in jeder von den karbonis, Faran Merum is the Aveda von dem Tzibur. In the karbonis that they bring on a separate day with their own approach, but yet it's the very same karbonis of the Tzibur, from Kulam, from everybody. The chiluk is not, as explained before, the difference between one nasi and the other is only velach aveda steht begilui kanal. Which one of the kaiches or approaches that there are of the 12 nasiim is being highlighted. Each nasi highlights one specific inyan, one specific koyach, and how he connects to the Eibishter. But really, in that individuality of who he is when he brings his carbon, the pnimius of it really stems from the source where all Yidden are one, and that absolute unity is there and felt and sensed in this individuality of what he's doing and who he is, and when he brings his carbon here today. This is the explanation of the Medrash, the two things that come together regarding the karbanis of the Nesiim. From here, the Rebbe goes to explaining now what the Nesiim did and why they brought Dafke together with the Karbanis, also the donation of the wagons and the oxen that were pulling the wagons. How is this connected to this the Karbanis of the Nesiim? The Midvet Neuch Verstehen. With this we'll understand the Shaychis von Nidvas HaGolos to Chanukas HaMizbeach. What's the connection of the donation of the wagons to the inauguration of the Mizbeach? So the point here that Rebbe will explain is that these wagons that they brought together is a step, an introduction to accomplishing this great level of unity that later was able to come out by the Karbanis. In order to be able to accomplish this level of unity, to the point of where there's no beginning and no end. And to reveal that even there in the individuality of each Nasi. The first step is you have to rise above the individual quality of each Nasi, and there they brought a donation together as one, which is higher than any distinctions. Was das hat gegeben dem Koyach zu peil sein, die his achtus gemura euch in der avodas pratis. And then following this, then they're able to take that absolute unity in the source and bring it down and apply it and sense it even there when each one of them is going to later bring on his individual day, with his individual approach, the karbanis he brings. Das is the Hagdome von Nidvas HaGolos. This explains why the Nesiim are bringing here the wagons. This is as an introduction to all the Agolas that are brought for the Chanukas HaMizbeach. Gid blois a halba Agola. Each Nasi, as mentioned before, the question that Rebbe asked, that each one is only donating half. Each Nasi is donating just half. Und euch sein Shirt can benutzt werden nur zusammen mit der zweitens, and even the ox that they bring, it could only be used together with another ox, kanal sivav, as mentioned before. What does this express? Das bringt der Reis wie jede Nass bifnei atzmai ken öfton nor ben chaverim ashlimai. What this expresses is that each Nasi is not an individual. He's only whole when he's together with his friend. So this expresses the unity the way it is in the source, where over there everyone is one and there is no complete individuality at all. Und dafür haben die Nesiim gebracht die Agolas Chulu alle zusammen. So therefore, all the Nesiim are bringing their karbanis all together. Als ein nedava klolis. This is one donation. Here, the Nesiim are not bringing each their own karbanis on their own day. Each one of the Nesiim are bringing one donation together. All these wagons that they cannot bring separately. They all have to bring it together. Und euch, wenn Moshe hat es bei sich genommen, when Moshe Rabbeinu took the donation from them, is nicht gewähnt Chelukim zwischen Nidvas ein Nasi mit dem zweiten. There was no distinction between one Nasi or another. This is yours, this is his. It's all one donation by all Nasiim together. This represents the level of unity where you rise above your individuality and they all become one entity. That's the first level, the first step of creating this unity between them. Und erst danach, and only following this, kommt die Chanukas HaMizbeach, was jeder Nasi bifnei atzmai hat gebracht die Karbonis bazunder. Here, now, each Nasi brings his own Karbonis, and they bring it separately on their own day. Und in dem Gufe hat man mamshich gewähnt an achtes Gemurah. And now, following the absolute unity that they came to on the level of bringing the wagons together, then you have to get to a higher level of unity where you're able to bring that unity of the essence, that it should be sensed even there in the individuality of who they are. That they should realize that the fact that they complete one another and they complement one another stems from what? From the fact that even these individual qualities they have stem from the source where they're all one. So that's the order of how the Nesiim bring their karbanis in order to accomplish this amazing and great level of unity. Now here, the Rebbe continues to explain as one of the approaches of the Nesiim, as we'll see, Shevet Shimon, what was the remez and what was the idea that he brought his karbanis with. Just like explained, we have here the three different possibilities or levels of unity amongst Yidden. Aleph, the level of unity where every Yid is one with another because it's above any levels of qualities or distinctions. It's all just one in the source. Beis, sein Meile Pratis. Then there's the level of unity where each one has his own quality, but one complements the other, and therefore that's the unity. Gimel, der Ichud von sein Etzem Kanal mitten Prat. And then the highest and most complete level of unity, when you're able to take that absolute unity of the source, of the essence, and infuse it into the detail, into the individuality, to realize what's the real source of your individuality. So these three levels that we find in the Achdus of Yidden, al deras gefindt men die drei inyanim euch bei dem Mishkan. We have these three levels of unity, or these three aspects as well, in the existence of the Mishkan itself. Aleph, die Kedusha Klolis von dem Mishkan, was nimmt darum dem ganzen Mishkan, kol chalakav u'pratav b'shaveh. When it comes to the holiness of the Mishkan, there's the level of Kedusha that's equal in all of the Mishkan, even though there are different parts of the Mishkan, inside, outside, the courtyard, but there's the general level of Kedusha that's one and the same by all of the Mishkan. Beis, the Kedusha is pratis from the Chelek Mishkan. But then there is the individual level of Kedusha that there is in each portion of the Mishkan. Kedusha is Chatzer, there's the level of Kedusha that there is in the courtyard. Kedusha Sayel Mayid, the level of Kedusha inside when you go into the base into the Mishkan. And then a Kedusha is Kodesh HaKadoshim, the highest level of Kedusha, which is only in the Holy of Holies. So that's the individual level of Kedusha in each place. Gimel, but then the highest level of Kedusha, the Yichod from Beide Kedushas Biyachad, bringing together, combining together the 2 points of Kedusha. Was mitzadem vet netoisef HaKedusha Yisera in the Kedusha Pratis. When you bring the general Kedusha of the Mishkan and you infuse it in the individual level of Kedusha that there is in each individual place, to bring in the source of what really is the meaning of this individual Kedusha. Where does it really stem from? It stems from that general Kedusha of the Mishkan that reveals a deeper source and depth of what this individual Kedusha is about. So fusing the two together, this is the absolute Kedusha on a higher level in the Mishkan. Based on these three levels here, what the Medrash tells us regarding what was the idea that the Shimon, the Nasi of Shimon, brought his carbon with. He brings his karbanis based on the Maisa Mishkan, of how the dimensions of how the Mishkan that is built. And this is what it says in the Medrash. Karas Kneged Chotzera Mishkan Shoyamakifis Mishkan. The bowls, the silver bowls that, in this case, Shevet Shimon, the silver bowl that he brings. What's the weight of the silver bowl? Shloishim Umeya Mishkala. The weight is 130. What's the symbolism of 130 in relation to the dimensions of the Mishkan? Kama the Tema, as the pasuk tells us, the length of the courtyard of the Mishkan was 100 amma. And then the Mishkan, the Mishkan that's inside the courtyard of the Mishkan, is Shloishim Amma Orkai, is long 30 amas. Harei Meo Shloishim. So the length of the Chatzar and the length of the Mishkan is 130. That's the symbolism of the silver bowl that Shimon brings, or Nasi Shimon brings. Then Mizrak Echad Kesef, there was a silver basin, which, as the Rebbe brings here, was 70. The weight of it was 70. What's this number of 70? Keneged HaChatzer Beloya Mishkan. This is corresponding the length of the Chatzar of the Mishkan, the courtyard, without the length, deducting the length of the Mishkan, which is 30, Shoisa Ayin Amma. And that's the length of 70 Amas. V'chein Mishkal HaMizrak Shivim. Matnas Kuna, as the Matnas Kuna there says, that this is the weight of this basin. Davacher, another pshat regarding the significance of what this number 70, the weight of 70 of this basin is. Hoya Orkai Kufame Verachvoi Nuname. The entire chotzer, so its length is 100 by the width of 50. So now that's a rectangle shaped chotzer. Now, toil chamishim, v'asei mimenu retzuis. If you want to now see what the size of this is in a square, so you take this 50 and you take strips of the 100 and you redistribute it to create a square. That's what the language of the Medrash here means. Biribua, so in a square, so if you want it to be the length as the width, a square, ayin ama cholo, it's going to be 70 by 70 ama. Valze ama shivim shekel v'gomer. That's the symbolism of the number 70, the weight of 70 of the basin, the 70 by 70 when you square the length and width of the Mishkan. Now, as the Rabbi mentions later here from Rashi in Erevin, where the Gemara discusses this as well, that it's not exactly 70 by 70. It's 70 by 70 plus, I believe, 4 tvachim and a bit more, but we round it out to be 70 by 70. That's what 100 by 50 comes to, even though it's not exact. Okay, so those are the different points that the Medrash here says is hinted in the details of the bowl and the basin that Shevet Shimon brought, Nasi Shimon brought. So the question over here on these details is as follows. Aleph, number one, the Shloishim Amma from Oirech HaMishkan, the 30 Amas, the length of the size of the Mishkan itself. Zenadach Nichlal in the Mei Amma from Oirech HaChatzer. That length of the Mishkan is there inside the Chatzer and it's included in the length of 100 Amas of the Chatzer. Wie rechnet men noch einmal die Shloishim Amma in Zugab to the Mei Amma? Why are we counting the 30 amas of the length of the Mishkan in addition to the 100 amas of the length of the Chatzer? And then we say, well, there's 100, and then there's an additional 30, which is Kuf Lamed Amma, 130 amas. That would be accurate if the Mishkan was outside the courtyard, so then you have first the courtyard and then the Mishkan. But if the Mishkan is inside, it's included in the length of 100 amas. Why is it counted separately? Another question here is, Vibaltzes da der Mispa from Kuf Lamed. If there is the number of Kuf Lamed 130, was hatten sich the Mitte von dem Chatzer mit dem Mishkan, so we're already including both the courtyard and the Mishkan itself. So was hat man gedarft makriv sein noch a karbin keneged a Chatzer b'lei Mishkan? So then why does the Medrash say that then there was the Mizrak Echad Kesef, which hints to just the length of the Chatzer without the Mishkan? There's already the Kara, which hints to the Chatzer, also including the Mishkan. So what's the point of another carbon, which is the Chatzer, specifically without the Mishkan? Gimel, another question here is, what is the svara from the Manda Amar as the Shivim Shekels and a Nit Keneged HaChatzer B'lei Mishkan? What is the reason for the opinion, the last opinion here, the Davar Acher, that says that the weight of 70 does not correspond to the Chatzer deducting the size of the Mishkan? Nor keneged dem ganzen Chatzer. Rather, it corresponds to the entire size of the whole Chatzer, and that's, as mentioned before, by taking the length and width of the Chatzer and putting it in a square, which is 70 by 70. Why does he learn that this is the symbolism and it's not on the Chatzer deducting the Mishkan? Ubefrat as mitzadem darf man machade sein nit rechen in the Shirayim, and especially that it's not even precise. 70 by 70 is not exactly the square of 100 by 50. You have to take off some extras over here, as I mentioned before. I believe it's 4 tvachim and a little bit more that you have to not count here. So if it's anyways not precise, so then why is he learning that the remez is this? Based on what we explained before, when it comes to the unity of Yidden, as the drei efanemanal vitzerechen in dem Eirech. So the 3 different ways of how we're counting over here. The length of the Chatzer. So Aleph, Shloishim, Umeya. There's either we're counting 130. Amisbar versus Keilel, die Midda von Chatzer Mishkan beyachad. Und zusammen damit, die Midda ist Mishkan b'fnei atzmai. So this is a measurement where we are counting both the size of the Chatzer, courtyard, and the Mishkan itself. Mishkan as well, that is, and the Mishkan is there, counted separately, 100 and then 30 for the Mishkan. That's one way how we count this. Beis dem Chatzer b'loya Mishkan, Shiva Mama. We're counting only the Chatzer, specifically deducting the measurement of the Mishkan, which is going to be only 70. On Gimel, Meya Amma from the Chatzer, and then counting the 100 Amas, which is just the size of the Chatzer, was an invet nit again, what's in vet nichlal dem oirech mishkan. This actually includes in the 100 amis. That includes the mishkan, which is inside the chutzner. So the 100 includes the mishkan as well. So these three different ways of how to measure this and what number we should give here in the symbolism of the karbanis. This is corresponding to the three different aspects mentioned before in the kedusha of the mishkan: the kedusha klalis, the kedusha pratis, and then how you fuse together the kedusha klalis in the kedusha pratis, similar to the three levels of achdus as it is in Klal Yisrael. Then menet wegen dem kedusha klalis from mishkan. When we're speaking of the general one level of Kedusha, the source of Kedusha, where it's all the same in all levels of the Mishkan, so then we just count one general size of the 100 amis of the courtyard that includes everything in it. The whole Mishkan is in there, the Kodesh HaKodashim, it's all included in the one length of the Chatzar. That's when we're speaking about the general source of Kedusha, where it's all one and the same. However, when we want to highlight the individual level of Kedusha that there is in each individual part of the Mishkan, so here we count the size of the length of the courtyard, deducting the Mishkan, the length of the Mishkan, which has a different level of Kedusha, Shivim Amen, therefore we come just to the number of 70. Vida Chatzar is a Kedusha B'fnei Atzmai. This is the number that expresses the fact that the courtyard has its own individual level of Kedusha that's different, and therefore we deduct the length of the Mishkan. Und der Ichod from beide Kedusha is, and then the fact that we confuse the two together to reveal and bring the general, the source of the Kedusha to be sensed even in the individual level of Kedusha, in Mispah Kuflamet. That's expressed in the number of 130, which includes both the length of the Mishkan and the length of the Chatzar and the length of the Mishkan. Motzai and Klal, Meya. So here you have the Kedusha of the Klal, which is the length of the Chatzar, 100. That includes everything that's in the Chatzar, the Mishkan, the Kodesh HaKodashim. So on one hand, you have here the Kedusha of the Klal, the Kedusha of the source. And in this, the Mishkan is not separate, it's not individual, not atel from Klal. It's part of the general length of 100 that includes everything in it. But then you're also adding and including 30 for the Kedusha of the Mishkan separately, and you're giving it one number. Kol Flamed. The Kol Flamed is the unity, the fusion of the two, the general level of Kedusha that's revealed and expressed even in the individual place of Kedusha of what the Mishkan is. On the river. So therefore, B'shas Nasi Shimon ot makriv geven karbanos lachanukas hamizbeach. When Shimon, the Nasi of Shimon, is bringing the karbanis to inaugurate the Mizbeach, was es verbunden mit die drei Inyanim, wie das ist benegei zu und in Yidden, and this is expressing the three different aspects of unity as this is regarding Yidden, Kanal, Baruch, as explained at length earlier, hat in seine karbanis keneged Maisa Mishkan, so in his karbanis, where the symbolism of it is corresponding to the structure and the size of the Mishkan, euch mechaven gewend dieselbe Inyanim, wie sie dricken sich aus benegei zum Mishkan. So his idea of these three levels of unity is expressed also regarding the three different aspects of Kedusha as this comes out regarding the Kedusha in the Mishkan, as explained. Now with this, we'll also understand regarding the Shivim, the two opinions that there are regarding the weight of the basin, the silver basin, what the Shivim hints to. Whether the Shivim hints to the Chatzar without the Mishkan, or it actually hints to the length and the width. When you square it, it becomes 70 by 70. This is the explanation for the two opinions. Whether the weight of the basin, 70 shkalim, is this corresponding to the length of the Chatzar, deducting the size of the Mishkan. Oder as das is the meya ama arkay v'nun ama rachbay v'memacht ze arkay kerachbay. Or it refers to the length and width of the Chatzar of the Mishkan when you square it out to be 70 by 70. What is the difference between these two opinions? What do they express regarding the Kedusha of the Mishkan? According to the first opinion, that it's the Chatzar without the Mishkan, is that Ikad Goshen Chanukah Samizbeach Maila Saprat. The main thing that we're highlighting here in the inauguration of the Mizbeach is the fact that the individual, the quality of each individual Nasi, what he's contributing. as Eichen dem is memamshech the minyan achtos. This is the whole purpose here, to reveal absolute unity of the source in the place, in the level of the individual. Und der Rebbe is da nicht as eine Geya the Kedusha Klolis wie sie ist bifnei atzmai. So over here, the main point is not to highlight the fact that in the source, all Yidden are absolutely one, because there is no idea of individuality there. That's not the main point. Over there in the essence, in the source, yes, it's all one. But the main point is to reveal the idea of how the source, the essence, can be sensed even in the place of individuality. So therefore, according to this opinion, the main thing that we're highlighting is the fact that the Chotzer is not the Mishkan. We deduct the length of the Mishkan from the length of the Chotzer because the Chotzer is separate from the Mishkan, highlighting the individuality of the Kedusha that there is only in the Chotzer. Da satashaychis und his merumis in nidvas ha'galus cholu kanal sifir aleph, because the kedusha klolis, or the general achdus, that the way it is in the source before there's any individuality, that was something that the Nesiim accomplished already earlier with bringing the wagons together when they all contributed one donation together. But over here, though, the main thing that's being highlighted in the carbon is the prat, the individual, to bring that general achdus that it should be expressed in the individual. By contrast, according to the second opinion, is the Iker Oiftu. What's the main accomplishment there? Mailas HaKlal. The fact that there is the general, overarching, all-including Achtus of the Klal, that's the main accomplishment here. Und der Oiftu von Chanukas am Mizbeach, das was das beweist, wie euch im Protim herzach Mailas HaKlal. The main accomplishment over here is that this shows how powerful the Klal is. If usually the level of unity in the source, in the klal, cannot be expressed in the place of individuality, here, the fact that that mila of the klal can be drawn down and be expressed even in the prat, what does this show? That this is a higher level in the klal itself. This reveals really a deeper source of achdus in the klal. So the main accomplishment over here and the approach of this medrash is that it reveals a deeper source in the etzem, in the klal, that's able to be revealed and expressed. It's so undefined that it's able to come down and be expressed even in the prat. So if so, actually the main accomplishment over here is that it's a higher level of klal. Like that day, so therefore, according to this opinion, is menit merames of the kedusha pratis viziz bifnei atzmai. The measurement that it's hinting to is not to the individual measurement of the chotzer deducting the mishkan. Rather, no, we're being merames here, the general kedusha of the chotzer and everything that's included in it as one. Und der Rebbe lernt as die Shivim sind der Cheshbin von der Klolus Shetach HaChotzer, and therefore this opinion says that the number 70 hints to the entire space of the whole courtyard that includes everything in it. But the Mishkan itself, individually, that was inside the space of the Chotzer, that's its own individual Mila that it has. But over here, though, it's hinting to everything that's included inside this square of 70 by 70, Milas HaKlal. The Mila that there is, that this is a higher level of Klal that's being revealed there in the unity by the fact that this Klal, this great level of unity, can be expressed even in the place of individuality.